You stand on the shore of the ocean watching the tide come in. You sense the call of the sea beckoning to take you further. You step forward little by little, not knowing what to expect, but expecting more. You keep going as the ocean calls you to enter in to deeper waters.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Deeper Waters. I am Nick Peters, your host, seeking to bring you the very best in Christian scholarship and apologetics. If you're watching on the live stream, we're doing this a bit early today because Allie and I have plans. And as it stands, she's my guest today. We're talking here about a very serious topic, the topic of suicide awareness here. And so if you've got, like, say, small children or something, you might want to listen to this later on when they're not around, because this is going to be a very serious topic here. And like I said, I've got my lovely wife here with me. All of you on Facebook Live can see us. Sorry, but she is a bit hidden behind the microphone. There's not much we can do about that right now. But we're going to be talking for a couple hours here, as usual, about this topic. Now, honey, I think something that people are also wondering, getting to know us and such. We've got several people listening to the show, I'm sure, and I'm quite confident the question that all of them are very wondering is your husband as awesome and studly in person as he is on the internet?
Sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah, gotta love that nice vote of confidence here. But let's start getting into your story here. Now, you grew up, your parents are Mike and Debbie Lacona, and Mike's very famous in the Christian world, but you weren't actually always a Christian growing up, were you?
No.
Tell us about that.
Well, I went through a lot of bullying growing up, and I believed there was a God, but my view of him was really skewed. Mm-hmm. I just thought he wanted to be entertained, and so he was making my life miserable for that. Mm-hmm. And when I became a teenager, it got to the point where I actually hated God. And I went on a missions trip in 7th grade, and I was in charge of the devotions, ironically. Yeah. In my group. And on the first day we were there, we read Psalm 139, which has become one of my favorite verses. And it got me thinking, maybe my views of God aren't totally accurate. But I wasn't convinced. Yeah, so...
Before we go forward, tell us a little bit about Psalm 139. People might not have their Bibles there with them. What is it?
Basically, David is talking about how God is always there, and, God knit him together in his mother's womb, and his works are wonderful. He knows that full well. Even in the darkest moments, God is there. And so... It just, I guess it just affected me at the time. And
of course it was fearfully and wonderfully made.
Right.
That's right, because you grew up being very different from everyone else, didn't you? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're on this devotion, you've read Psalm 139. You think maybe there's something to this, but you're not convinced.
Right. And then the last night that we were there, we had like a worship service. And I felt like God told me that he's there for me no matter what. He'll always be there for me, and he will always love me. Mm-hmm. And even though I've gone through a really difficult time, He wants to help me. I just have to believe. And so I became a Christian that night at 14. And, I've been a Christian since I was 14, but a few years ago, I left the faith because I felt like God didn't want me anymore. And so, I told you, because you were upset about it, and I told you, if God really wants me, he'll come for me. And someone else told you that too.
Yeah, they were pretty confident it was going to happen soon.
And 3 nights later, I had a dream, and God came for me in that dream, and I came back to the faith.
Yeah. Well, one of the shortest apostasies ever in Christian history.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Now, you talked some about bullying and such. Bullying, I'm sure, though, has always been with us. So chances are we're never going to really end bullying. No more we're going to end crime or anything like that until Jesus returns. But what effect did this bullying have on you?
It affected me greatly. I was bullied most of my life. And, ever since I was a little kid. And, even when I went to school, private schools, public schools, I got bullied. And I've got PTSD from that. So I was clinically diagnosed with it.
You got a pretty funny story, though, about bullying that involves David Wood, though, don't you?
Yeah. Let's see, I was in middle school. And not only did kids bully me at school, they bullied me in the neighborhood too. So the only time I could really escape from it was when I was at home. And of course, back in middle school, that was before Facebook or MySpace or any of those kind of things. So my dad had his dream team, and I went to go walk the dog.
And what is the dream team exactly?
Some people he would mentor in apologetics. I never stuck around to really know what it was.
But there were a few well-known people in there. David was... Nabil Qureshi was also part of it, wasn't he?
Yeah. And so, during one of their meetings, I went to go walk the dog, and I came home in tears because kids had been bullying me. And, David Wood was like, well, you want me to go walk the dog with you? And I'm like, no. But, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, the thing about this is David Wood, he's a big guy. Not in the sense of obese, he's muscular and tough, and he would have handled anyone who went after you, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the Woods have really been good friends to us for several years now. We're very thankful for them. Even in Christian schools, bullying was taking place, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What would you say to people out there who are actually out there doing bullying right now?
May God have mercy on your soul. Because that does something to someone. I mean, you could actually kill somebody doing that.
This has happened several times, hasn't it? With people do commit suicide because of bullying.
Oh, yeah, even kids at a young age. I mean, recently I heard about an 11-year-old who killed himself.
Yeah, and we have to say this is real, actual bullying. It's not like, say, if I'm on the phone with some friends, we're tease and rib at each other and such. Our goal has never been to hurt one another, but actual bullying the goal is to actually hurt the other person. Now, what would you say about someone out there listening and saying, Allie, I'm being bullied right now?
Hang on. I mean, it's not going to last forever. No, I mean, you're always going to run into people who are jerks. But, it's not going to last forever. There will be times where it's not quite as bad. And, there are people who care about you.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't know who those people are, there are always people who care about you. And they would hate to see you go.
Mm-hmm. Do you think they should also reach out and talk to somebody about what's going on?
Yes, but at the same time, if it's like at school or even at work, you could go to a teacher or your boss, but it doesn't mean they're necessarily going to do anything about it.
Yeah.
And so, for me, I switched school because I got bullied so much I couldn't handle it.
Mm-hmm.
So, stand your ground. I sometimes wish I hadn't switched schools so often because that shows weakness on my part.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wish, I would have stood my ground, but I've never been the type who really could stand my ground.
It's kind of a whole fight or flight thing.
Right.
And you have a tendency to choose flight.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite the opposite. When someone shows up and they start going after you, I choose fight immediately.
Right.
Social media has been kind of a gift and a curse today. It's good that we can get out there and meet people and connect with people we went to school with when we were growing up and things like that, but social media can be a place of bullying too, can't it?
Yes. Yeah, bullying has gotten worse over the years. I went through some intense bullying and even some abuse, not from family, but today it's gotten worse with social media because at least for me, when I get bullied, I could at least go home and be okay and be safe. While today, with social media, kids, they come home from being bullied, they look on their Facebook and there's bullying going on still. They can't really escape it.
Maybe in some cases it would be wise for some parents to disconnect Facebook from their kids. And also, not only do kids have social media today, most of them also have their iPhones and Androids and such. And so we definitely need to add that parents really need to be monitoring these things.
Definitely.
Like I say, parents, don't let your kids, for instance, have an Instagram out there because they can start doing some things they shouldn't do on there very easily. Yeah. And there have been stories of people who have committed suicide because of Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And we can be thankful that Facebook Live has done work where they've stopped suicides that are being done on there.
Right.
Now, let's talk some about your life when you became a teenager and you started being interested in some of the guys around you and such.
I've been interested in guys since the first grade. Okay, this started way before I became a teenager.
Yeah. What were your romantic relationships like at first?
I got used a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They just wanted me for certain things, and when I wouldn't give it to them, they would break up with me.
Mm-hmm. Not all guys were like this, to be fair.
No, not all of them, but the majority of them were.
Of course, for us as a couple, usually, it's quite amusing when you're talking about some guy from school and such. Yeah, you had a crush on him, didn't you? It's like, how did you know? Because you had a crush on every guy you talked about, it seems.
Yeah.
But, did those relationships, though, did any of them bring you any real joy or anything?
There was one that I was interested in, but he was not interested in me in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of joy being with him. But we had a falling out. And that was really hard on me. So, other than that, no other guys really gave me joy.
Now, we're going to have to start getting into where the story turns dark here. but some of you have to explain that you're not going to be giving a whole lot of key-in details about this. Could you explain to the audience why that is?
I don't want to give anyone ideas who may be struggling or trigger somebody because they, I'm not going to be responsible for something like that.
And this is something that our media does today that gets consistently wrong, such as when someone like Robin Williams commits suicide, they tell explicitly what happened, and suicide rates go up, don't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in fact, last year when Chester Bennington killed himself, and they gave some details on how he did, the suicide hotline had 30% more calls that day than average.
But we all have to tell some about what happened, obviously. So you're still in high school at the time, and you meet a guy on the internet, right?
Right.
So what happens?
Well, I met him online shortly before graduating high school. And, he lived sort of in the area. But he never wanted to actually meet me in person. And, I really liked this guy. I don't know if I actually loved him. I don't think I did.
You were convinced at the time you did.
Right. And he was close to my dream guy. and I really liked him, and I thought he really liked me too. And then we started dating online, and I would try to have us meet in person, but he never wanted to. And he eventually broke up with me. And after... I don't want to get into that yet. But anyway, he broke up with me, and I was devastated. Because he was the first guy to make me feel like I was beautiful. And he broke up with me supposedly because I was too depressing for him. And then he liked a mutual friend, and so I kind of, I was like, well, if I love him, I want him to be happy, right? Even if it's not with me. So I kind of got them together, and then he turned on me and started being really rude and saying really horrible stuff. I don't even remember what they were. My brain has probably tried to just block that out. And it was really hard on me, and I told my friend that he was dating at the time, I told her, hey, you need to tell him to stop treating me like this. And she was like, well, he's my boyfriend, so I need to agree with everything he says. I'm like, no, because if he and I were still dating and he was treating you the way he's been treating me, I would say something.
At this point, let's say out there that just because a guy says it doesn't mean you always have to agree. I mean,
No.
believe it or not, we've been married for 8 years. Allie still doesn't see that I'm right on everything, for instance. What's with that look?
Anyway.
The point is, we still don't agree on things, and that's fine. Okay, so go on with your story.
So I was in college at the time. I was at community college. And so after she had, I had talked to her about this, he messaged me, and he said that he was completely done with me, even as friends, and he wanted nothing to do with me anymore. And I said I couldn't do it anymore.
So what happened?
I made my first attempt around midnight, and no one found me until 8 hours later.
Yeah. And your dad had even come down that night, hadn't he? And he was asking what I was doing awake still. And I just said, oh, I'm just writing something, which was my suicide note I was writing. But he didn't know that. And then he came over and gave me a hug, said, I love you.
I said, I love you too. He left my room, and I thought that's the last time I'm ever going to see my dad. So.
It's hard to talk about it, isn't it, still? So, what happens 8 hours later?
Well, my mom came down in the basement where my room was, and she was asking where my brother's medication was. And I told her to look in my bathroom. And she saw a bunch of empty bottles. And she yelled out for my dad, Mike, Allie tried to kill herself. And so yeah.
This is definitely usually pretty much any parent's worst nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we're guessing ambulance was called immediately?
No, my dad took me to the hospital. If I remember right, I could barely walk. I could barely stand on my own. I had so many drugs in my system. And I've been told my eyes were darting all over the place, and I was sweating profusely, but I was freezing at the same time, and I had shivers, and there were times where my hand would just shake on its own. It was really scary. I actually had a mild seizure before my parents found me. So.
Now, let's go back a little bit. Even before this happened, you were in therapy.
Yes, I've been in therapy since 6th grade.
Yeah, and you had been on medications. And at this point, you had been diagnosed with Asperger's, right?
Yes.
And you'd also had tendencies to self-harm before this. So you'd been in mental hospitals, even.
Yes.
But they were told it's not going to happen, right?
Right. My therapist at the time told my parents, she's never going to try to kill herself.
Yeah. Well, was this kind of like a spur-of-a-moment decision then?
Yes.
And for you, usually that is how it's been, hasn't it?
Yes.
Usually.
Yes.
So, your dad takes you to a hospital. What happens then?
I feel really bad. We were talking to the lady at the front desk, and I ended up vomiting all over her. She looked really pretty in this nice suit, and I ended up vomiting all over the place, and my dad barely missed the vomit getting on him, so... yeah, and they put me in ICU for a couple days. They had to pump my stomach. So.
And it really is a miracle that you survived.
Yes.
Isn't it? And while you're in the hospital, are you kind of regretting what happened and such?
No, I was angry with God that I had survived. I really didn't want to survive from that.
And that's clear. At this point in your life, when you had done it, everything seemed absolutely hopeless, and there was no future.
Right.
Because if this guy was in your life, it wasn't worth it.
Right.
And there was a lot of anger towards God, saying, God, if you really loved me, God, you would have just let me die then. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So that was around July of 2009, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
I was not 19 quite yet.
So you probably had to go to the mental hospital.
Yes.
Shortly after that.
Yes, and first day I was there, I literally slept the whole day because I hadn't slept in a couple days, based on the medication that I had overdosed on. It just, I don't want to get into details about that, but it definitely makes it harder to sleep.
Yeah. How was it for your parents and your brother as well?
My brother did not visit me at all while I was in the hospital. He was really upset with me.
It's understandable, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. My parents did visit me in the hospital. They came every day when I was in ICU. And they stayed with me the whole time. My dad even canceled a debate he was going to be in to be there. And then when I was in the mental hospital, there are only certain days and certain times that you can have visitors, and they were there when they were able to.
And you lived in Virginia Beach beforehand. You had people fly down from Virginia Beach, didn't you?
Mm-mm.
Okay, wasn't one of them willing to?
Yes. Our pastor from the church we went to in Virginia Beach, when he heard that I had tried to kill myself, he asked my parents if he needed to get on a plane and come over.
And you did have some people from your local church, though, come in and see you. What was it like seeing all these people and seeing them care for you?
I was grateful, but like I said, I was really angry with God for having me survive. So, and I also wasn't completely right in my head with the, not only because I had drugs in my system, but because the charcoal, I think, that they used to combat the drugs in my system, it caused me to hallucinate pretty badly and get really delusional. And so that made it harder too.
And sadly, when it comes to the topic of suicide, there is usually a large unhealthy focus on your own self at the time.
Yes.
Isn't there? Where you kind of, C.S. Lewis once said about forgiveness that when it comes to the excuses we have for our sins, we make our excuses so much better, but we downplay what everyone else says about what they did, But when it comes to suicide, it's kind of like you upplay the suffering that you have going on, but you downplay the effect it's going to have on everyone else.
I don't know if I'd say it upplays it.
Yeah.
But, and there are times, where I know for me anyway, I feel like, well, I should just kill myself because it would be better for everyone else if I were gone. And in that sense, I feel like it's not a selfish thing, even though it really is.
Yeah.
But at the time, I don't, because I feel like I'm doing it for other people's benefits.
Yeah, because right now you're kind of a wounded healer.
Yes.
Aren't you? The things you're telling us, you're telling to yourself too.
Yes.
Okay. So, how long are you in the hospital here?
For the first attempt?
Yeah.
I was in ICU for 3 days and the mental hospital for 4 days.
Now, you get out, and it's around your birthday then, isn't it? And I understand your friends took you out for your birthday and such, didn't they?
No, I was in this college group, like a college Sunday school class, and we went on something over the weekend, and I don't know if it was, I don't think it was a retreat, but I'm not really sure what it was, honestly, but they did get me a cake. So, I was there.
Now, your birthday also, you didn't know it immediately, but it did bring about another change, because shortly after this, now you were wanting to get back with this guy.
Yes.
You tried to kill yourself and be his girlfriend again, right?
Yes, at the time I felt like, well, if I get better, maybe he'll have me back. But I later found out I was really just a guinea pig to see how far he could go with a girl. So there was no way I was ever going to get back with him anyway.
Yeah, it was pretty odd that while this was going on here, like I said, things changed. You got an email from someone you didn't even know. Right, tell us about this email.
They told me that they heard about me from Gary Habermas, and they had autism like me, and that I guess that they heard that I really needed a friend. So I didn't think too much about it. I thought, I saw that they were a lot older than me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh, maybe they can be like a mentor then.
Yeah. And then you also became Facebook friends with them. And you decided they were a total nerd, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And all you wanted was a good friend, and that was nothing more.
Mm-hmm.
And you wanted to get back together with this other guy, right?
Right.
So what happened to this person that emailed you?
Well, they were really kind to me in a way that I had never really experienced with anyone else. They showed genuine care, and no, I wasn't used to that with guys.
So this was a guy?
Yeah.
Okay. Go on.
Sorry. Can we just say it was you?
Yeah, I didn't even get spoiler alerts, but yeah, I was that guy, and I found out about you on your birthday. Mm-hmm. And because we've confirmed this looking at Facebook memories, remembering the date, and things like that, because I'll go ahead and tell my part of the story here. I worked at a Christian Research Institute at the time, and I was heading home, and Gary and I had emailed some back and forth because he helped me some with self-doubt and such. He'd spoken at the church at the seminary before, so I started talking to him. And I'm talking to him, and he says, hey, I see him out a lot because he's teaching a module at SES on historical Jesus. And he says, so, Nick, do you know who Mike Lacona is? Like, yeah, you and him co-wrote a book together, and he debated Barter Eminent here like a year or so ago. He says, did you know he has a daughter? No, I didn't know this. This is news to me. He says, yeah, well, we were talking, and it was him and I think Alex McFarlane and Frank Turek together, and they were talking about you back there, about what you were going through and such. And he says, and someone says that you have Asperger's, and Frank Turek said, well, Nick Peters has Asperger's. And so Gary said to me, maybe you should talk to her. And I remember he invited me to join his class for a bit, and during the break, I up to him and got one of your email, and he said, Nick, you know what she really wants the most? A boyfriend? A boyfriend. And, well, I'd had internet relationships before, and they hadn't worked out well. And I got in touch with you, and it was pretty clear you were not interested in me romantically at all. And so we both thought, okay, nothing's going to happen here. It's just good friends, nothing else. Didn't last too long, did it?
No.
So what happened then?
We started dating on Labor Day.
And why did you decide you wanted to start dating me, of all people?
Because you were different.
Mm-hmm. And as the story goes, I was treating you extremely well, and the thoughts of this guy kept fading into the background, and pretty soon I was there entirely. Mm-hmm. And we have an amusing story about that November. I was living in Charlotte, of course, and you actually wanted to come to the apologetics conference for some reason. You never had interest in the field and such, but you wanted to come. Well, what's your funny story about what happened there?
Funny story.
Yeah, when you were at this luncheon meeting for the guests and their families.
I don't know if it was funny.
Well, I think it's funny.
If we're thinking about the same story, but a lot of times people knew me as Mike Lacona's daughter. Mm-hmm. And, I wanted to be known for me, not for someone else. And then Alex McFarlane said, this is Nick Peters' girlfriend. And I liked that more than being Mike Lacona's daughter. No offense, Dad.
Yeah. No offense, but it's kind of like, your dad's no longer the number one man in your life, just like my mom's no longer the number one woman in my life.
Right.
Yeah. And so you and I are dating, and everyone is watching us, and it's pretty clear where this is going, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I think this is a great irony, because a month before you and I started communicating, you had tried to kill yourself and decide that life was absolutely hopeless, and yet one of the greatest blessings you could have had in your life was just around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't that... What do you think when you hear that kind of thing?
I don't know. I guess that, hold on and hang in there, because the pain's not going to be forever.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how intense it may be, it's not going to be forever. Something better is on the way.
You never know what could be, because honestly, if someone had told you on July 24th, 2009, if someone came and said, Allie, I've had this vision, or God told me, or someone has said, a year from now, you are going to be walking down the aisle marrying a man who loves you very much and you love him very much, what would you have said to them?
I hope you're right.
But you would not believe them.
No.
And if someone had told me that I'd be marrying a woman who loves me very much and who I would love very much on that day, I probably would have laughed in their face. I said, yeah, this is why I don't pay attention to people who say God told me, because they're obviously getting it wrong. But everyone around us was watching. I have an amusing story even where, like I said, I was working at CRI, and after that day, after the conversation, I pretty much knew what I was going to be doing. And so I'm heading back to my office area, and you may turn a corner, I hear someone say, and that was Mike Lacona's daughter, wasn't it? And I said, yeah, it was. And it says, such a beautiful couple, so happy together, they're probably going to get married, all this stuff here. And I was just, okay, well, while I was eavesdropping, just soaking it all in and enjoying it. And then I come around the corner and I've got like this brochure for jewelry and such, and say, make that definitely instead of probably. And the guy there, he tells me a good jewelry store in the area to go get a ring. So let's tell the story then. You were going to spend Christmas with me that year. So you're flying to Atlanta. What happens when you get there?
I'm flying to Atlanta.
To Charlotte, I'm sorry. You fly to Charlotte on Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens when you get there?
Well, we meet at the Queen Charlotte statue.
Mm-hmm. At the airport.
Mm-hmm. Because I can't drive.
Yeah.
and we meet at this statue, really beautiful statue, and we're talking, and you ask, how would you like to be a queen? And I said, only if you're the king. And then you got down on one knee
And
proposed.
And popped open that box, and you're absolutely stunned at that point, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Because you had hoped it would happen, but you were still very surprised.
Yes.
And as we know, we were both surprised because my phone went off at just that moment, too.
Mm-hmm.
And I was convinced it was my mom calling, because she always calls at the worst possible times. So here I am proposing my girlfriend, and she calls. Great. Well, I didn't answer it. Guys, do not answer the phone while you're proposing. It's okay? And I go and check afterwards, after you say yes, of course. And I was half right. It was your mom wanting me to know that the plane arrived early, and she's always been scared of this story would live in immortality, and she'd never live it down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess she should be relieved that we haven't really mentioned it, right?
Right.
Now, we drive to Knoxville to see my family, and there was a rock slide of sorts on the interstate there, so we had to go a more circular route through the northwest part of North Carolina, the northeast part of Tennessee, and drive around, and I had things planned perfectly there. When we'd walk in an area, I'd have your left hand that had your ring, or was it your right hand?
Left.
Okay, I get them confused sometimes which one you wear on. Yeah, and I had it covered in my right hand, because some people there didn't even know you.
Right.
And I came in first, because we had 2 spots to go to. And the first one, I walk in, we were the last ones to get there as expected, and I say to everyone, "Hey everyone, this is Allie. She and I have been dating for a few months now, and as of a few hours ago, she's become somewhat more important in my life." And then I'd lift my hand up so everyone could see the ring, and as I say, I dove out of the way to avoid all the women flocking up there wanting to see that ring immediately. And we did the same thing when we went to see my extended family for the second stop. What's it like for you on this day? Because I know when you were calling all your friends and telling them the story and such. I mean, what's this day like for you?
It was exciting.
Can you tell us a bit more about what's going through your mind and such?
I can't believe I'm getting married.
Mm-hmm. Although when you called to tell your mom, she already knew very well, didn't she? And like when you'd asked me when we should get married, I already have that set up, didn't I?
Yep.
Now, we go through the usual things with planning weddings and things like that, and me just sitting back there saying, "Yes, dear, whatever you want, whatever makes you happy." I'm planning the honeymoon, guys. I had my priorities there, okay? And then the wedding day comes, and I think we can easily say this is the happiest day of your life, isn't it?
Yep.
And we had a dream wedding, and go on a honeymoon together, and you really learn what it means to, live with someone. And be married. At the same time, we're still exploring what's happened, because the overdose, it did affect you, didn't it?
Yes.
What happened?
I have a brain injury. And it affects my short-term memory, perception some, and also I can't, I can't drive.
Now, with perception, for instance, like, sometimes you look at me and think I'm only slightly studly sometimes, right?
More like, when, like, this only happens when I'm behind the wheel. Cars that are moving sometimes look like they're parked to me. And so, it's really weird. So I almost got into some accidents, major accidents because of that. The cars looked parked to me, but they were actually moving. And sometimes things like signs or light poles, they'll look slanted at times. So, that's gotten better.
So, yeah, all of this stuff is still subject to change.
Yes, there's a 50% chance my brain will heal. And I had to drop out of college because of my brain injury. So before we were even engaged, I had to drop out because it was too much stress on my brain.
Yeah, going back, another funny story was when I came back to seminary after the proposer, Mariah, I was wondering, I put this up on Facebook and such. I wonder how many people know about it. So I go to the seminary and I go to my personal mailbox there. I went up there, it's like this weekly brochure thing they send out with things going on and prayer requests. And I look at my back and there was a prayer request section, the last one, and I'm sure I've still got a picture of this somewhere. God's blessing on Nick Peters and Allie Lacona's engagement. Well, I guess they know. And my professor in my class today said how he wanted us to be paying attention. He said, "Yeah, I don't want Nick over here rubbing his hands because I'm getting married," which is true, by the way. Congratulations. It was a very fascinating time for me too, definitely. And even though you're married, it doesn't mean we stop working on the mental issues and such, because they're still there.
Right.
And we make going to therapy a regular part.
Oh, yeah.
Of our lives.
I'm in therapy almost every day of the week.
And there have been a few more diagnoses even since then, haven't there?
Yep.
Now, it'd be great to say that everything keeps going and it's happily ever after in that point, but it's not the case. And I think a lot of these comes from what we could say is relationship addiction many times, and because you feel rejected. Not by me, to be sure, but other people. So I've written about this on my blog, about what was easily, definitely the worst day of my life. And that was, I had gotten done doing a show, and we were going to go with my dad to see a movie.
The first Avengers.
Yeah. And you weren't really responding too much. I didn't think too much of it. And then you told me you'd overdosed again. And you still wonder why you told me.
Yeah.
Because if you hadn't told me, I probably would have gone to a store, got some medication, came back, and it could have been too late for all we know then.
Maybe. Maybe not.
Maybe, but it could have been. And I ended up calling 911 immediately, calling your parents, calling my parents, and my parents live next door. What happened with them?
They came over.
I think it's a little bit more than just they came over. Yeah. My mother, in her 60s here, not athletic at all and such, she runs down and jumps on the bed with you and tells you to keep your eyes open, right?
Yeah, I was dozing off.
As far as you're concerned, my mother could very well save your life that day, couldn't she?
Possibly.
And
I kept hearing, Allie, get up, get up, get up, open your eyes, get up.
And we take you to the hospital again, and we had a strange time too, because my dad and I decided we were going to follow you. And our car had recently been in a car accident. Someone had backed into us. So I had to ride with my dad. That was a wild ride. Because when my dad said we were going to follow the ambulance, I did not know he meant it in a real, literal sense. We followed the ambulance right through every red light, right through every stop sign, everything. We were right behind them. I mean, what were they saying in the ambulance?
I mean, I was kind of going in and out of it, but I could hear them say, you know, they're passing red lights with us. Should we do something? And they're like, no, just let them follow.
And on the way, I'm pretty much calling everyone and their mother, letting them know. Like when I get there, there's about 9 people, I think, in the waiting room, all there for you. And it's when I'm pacing back and forth, when can I get back there and see you? And it's about an hour or so after we get there, I finally say, you can come back there. And only 2 of us were allowed at a time, and I was always one of them. So a lot of those people out there did not get to go back there and see you.
Right.
So what's it like when you see me again after all of that?
It was strange. You were crying, and of course I felt bad about that, and I kept thinking, why did I say something? I wanted to die. Why did I say something? And I still, to this day, can't figure out why I said anything. I didn't do it for attention. Yeah. I don't know why I said anything.
And the reason you done this time was Facebook. Again, you felt rejected in 2 different relationships, right? And rejection sometimes happens. And what are some better ways people can do things? I mean, like, we shouldn't say that someone dating someone should never ever break up with them. That's going to happen sometimes and such. What are some better ways things can go about?
I guess be gentle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you never know what kind of battle the other person is fighting.
Mm-hmm. To be fair, you'd been in some DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, and you had been trying to clean up your Facebook list and such, and your teacher did later tell you, Howie, you took me way too literally, right?
Yeah.
Because, if I remember correctly, you started giving out ultimatums to people, and then they started responding negatively to that. Quite bizarrely, isn't that?
Yeah.
And so, you're in the mental area of the hospital again. And say, anytime you get to go and use the phones, you're calling me immediately, aren't you?
Yeah.
And we took advantage of that every time. And say before, there was a kind of crisis stabilization unit in Knoxville, and it was in a city called Morrisville, maybe 20 or 30 miles away. And I had to go there a couple of times or so. And visiting hours were from 6 to 8 p.m. And when visiting hours came, I was already waiting outside the door to come in every time. And I stayed the whole 2 hours until I had to leave. And what are you thinking when you see your husband go and do that every single time?
I guess I was thinking, he must really care about me.
It's still something you have a hard time believing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, your husband does still really care about you.
I know.
I even brought the associate pastor from the Point, the church we were attending, with me once, didn't I? And then there was another lady that came one time too. We had thought about going down there together, and I called and said, I want you to be there, but I don't think we should drive together for appearances' sake and such. You know my rule.
Yeah.
Listen. She understood. It's kind of my version of a Pence rule and such, but I was there. And here you are in the hospital, this time again, after an overdose. And I tell you, people here, you all know I love doing apologetics here, but I didn't want to do it at that time. I was sitting at home, very angry, kind of just turning on the TV, sitting there, not doing anything. And, it's kind of odd because we could understand people feeling sorrow after that, but anger does sometimes seem like it'd be a bit out of place, but it is fitting in some ways, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when Allie had been in the hospital, that first night in the hospital, before they took you to the mental area and such, I stayed there with you the whole night. And there was no getting sleep either, because sure they turned on the lights, but I'd have to sit in a chair, not comfortable at all. And someone would come in pretty much every hour, turn on the lights, check vitals, get blood, things like that and such. So I stayed up all night with you, with a sleepless night and such. And next day, my parents had to take me back home for a little bit so I could get some sleep and come back. And like I said, we had no car then.
Right.
And so I couldn't just leave when I wanted to, and you were begging me to stay with you that night. But the thing is, if they had taken you to a mental area, then I would have been stuck there all evening with no way to get home or anything. And it put me in a bind, and I actually said, no, honey, I can't stay with you. And that was one of the scariest things I'd done, and I'm sure you felt kind of abandoned, didn't you?
A little.
And later on, I got home, and I saw it was you calling me on my phone, and I was honestly getting scared, because I was thinking you were going to be so angry with me and such, but you told me they'd come and they were taking you to the area, so I made the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you were there about
3 days.
Yeah, and then you were going to get to have another dialectical behavioral therapy class because it took place at a hospital. And I was going to get to finally see you some that day. And as I'm coming in there, because I think by then I had a car. We'd had one that had been provided then, I think. And I had a whole speech laid out. I love you. I still did. I always have. But I was angry with you. Which, by the way, people, if you're in love, you will get angry with people. With them. Believe it or not, Allie sometimes gets angry at me. I mean, I'm actually not always just a simple joy and delight to be with. I know that's stunning and such. Why are you rolling your eyes, honey?
I didn't roll my eyes.
Well, why are you giving me that look? But I have this speech all laid out. Now, when you come to the hospital there, where I was having therapy, there was a long hallway to get there, then some double doors, a short little alcove in there, with some more double doors. And past the double doors was another long hallway, and you had to wait at the second set of double doors for the class to let out so you could come out and see her. I had the speech, the talk ready, and I was going to tell Allie how things were going to be from now on, because I was so angry at that point, because it was like a rejection, a betrayal of sorts, and you can understand that, definitely. And I'm all set, but then I see the doors down the hall open, and I see you come out, and as I tell people, I forgot everything I was going to say immediately. And I didn't get to see you for long, because you had to go back up to the mentor area, but we walked up there together, and I still remember there was this little bench up there, and you and I sat there, and we talked as long as we could, kissed, hugged, those kinds of things, and such. What's that time like for you? Because here you've got the man you love here again, and you know you're going to have to go away for a bit, and you don't know when you're going to get out of the mentor area. What's it like?
It was hard, but at the same time, I was looking forward to going back home.
Mm-hmm. Were you at the point then now where you regretted the decision?
To try to kill myself?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that can usually happen after someone does it.
Mm-hmm.
Why were you wanting to go home?
Because I wanted to be with you, and I wanted to be with the cat.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, we do have a cat. If you watch Allie's Facebook for maybe a few seconds or so, you'll probably see a picture of a cat pop up eventually. You know, when we get done, you come home and things are pretty different for a while, aren't they?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, when I realized that I had another chance in life, I wanted to use that new chance. And so I wanted to get healthy, and I wanted to do better at taking care of things. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. You were very happy,
mm-hmm.
and you were leaving a whole lot of positive notes on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I think you were even taking a statement I gave sometimes that you didn't just want to exist, you wanted to live.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the guy that one of the guys that had hurt you so much with rejection, he said something very rude to you, and that kind of killed it, didn't it?
Yeah.
And for some people, sometimes you do need to be straightforward and blunt, but there can be times where it's definitely not the right thing to do, isn't it?
Right.
And
Some people are too sensitive for that.
And to be fair, I mean, on your end, that is something you have to work on, too. But you are learning to explore this, because, I mean, this will come up more later, but you're in Celebrate Recovery now. And you're learning more about dealing with unhealthy addictions and such, aren't you?
Right.
Yeah. We're at about the halfway point here. I hope you all can hear things okay. I hope you can see things as well if you're watching on the live stream here and such. But I'd like to remind you, you're listening to Deeper Waters podcast, and I got my lovely wife, Allie, here with me. We're talking about her experience with suicide for Suicide Awareness Month. But if you're here next week, we're going to have Greg Kutsana with us. He's written the book Mere Science and Christian Faith, looking at science and Christianity issues, and especially how this is affecting the younger generation, the millennials, how we can do better, talking about things like evolution, climate change, technology, things of that sort. So we were going to have him last month, but things went wrong, so we're having him here this month. So if you're here next week, that's what's going to happen here. Now, despite you being in such a great mood before, you were still going to therapy just to be safe, right? Now, something some people could wonder about is this thing, but yeah, you're a Christian here. Why would a Christian want to kill themselves?
Same reason anybody else would. I mean, we're all human. And, we all suffer in different ways. And for me, it's a lot of mental health illnesses. And so, if you follow my blog at all, you can see that there's a lot of darkness. And usually I try to have some hope in my blogs. It doesn't always work out that way, but I try. And so there's a lot of darkness in my head. Something that Chester Bennington said in an interview shortly before he killed himself last year was that in his mind, it's a very bad neighborhood. And he can't be in there by himself for very long. And it's true. That's how my mind is too.
You know, I think it's true that all Christians struggle with some sins. So we could just as well ask, people say, how could a Christian want to commit suicide? We say, how could a Christian want to watch pornography, want to have an affair, want to overeat, want to cheat on their taxes, do any number of things? Because we all have struggles of some sort and such. And sadly, Christians can sometimes be less than comforting at the time, can't they?
Some of the worst people I've ever known are Christians.
So, what effect do these kinds of attempts have on the people around you?
It's hard on them, and they lose trust for me.
Even today, here, we have to keep medication and things like that in the locked box. And we both honestly look forward to the day where this is no longer necessary and such. But it's really painful. And like I said, the suicidal thoughts, they really, I think they focus on the negative so much that really the positive that is there just seems to get drowned out. And you're not really, you think you're thinking of the other person, but you're really not in that sense, you know? So, in fact, there was, over this person who hurt you so much later on, there was a third attempt. Not much happened. I managed to stop you. In fact, I can what was going on there. You didn't even really put up a fight at all. But I did manage to stop you. And you were having to keep going to therapy and such and find out what's going on. Let's talk some then about how eventually we do wind up here in Atlanta. And there was a time shortly after we get here where I make a decision, because I see how you are one night and say, we're going to the hospital again. And I take you there. And it was the only time since we moved here you've had to go to a mental hospital. Such. And, while you're there, it kind of seems you miss the things that you take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And let's face it, one of the things that can lead to suicidal thinking is you take things for granted, right?
Yeah.
Like, you overlook all the blessings you have in your life at time, and even simple things. Getting to have a home-cooked meal of sorts, getting to pet your cat, getting to hold your hubby close, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
What really keeps you going today?
I guess the people that I care about.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't live for myself, I'll try to live for them.
Mm-hmm. And that includes living for God.
Mm-hmm.
And you're still trying to find a way you can best serve Him, aren't you?
Yeah.
Let's talk some about Celebrate Recovery. What is Celebrate Recovery?
It's a 12-step program that's Christ-centered, and it focuses on not just one addiction, but a range of addictions and other problems.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first time I ever went to a Celebrate Recovery was we were in Tennessee, and I went there for grief.
Mm-hmm. And that one didn't go too well, right?
No, that was a different one.
Okay. But we also went to one there, and it was one you and I both enjoyed going to, because it was like one of the co-pastors led it. And he gave a hilarious talk beforehand. Many times. It was serious, but he was very funny too. And this would even be live streamed to prisons, so that people behind bars could get to hear a good message. Then you go to your group, and I'd go to one for family of people like this and such. What difference does Celebrate Recovery make?
I mean, it makes a really big difference. You're surrounded by people who have similar problems.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are people you can relate to, and there are people who support you. And also the chips. The chips are these plastic, like, coins.
Yeah, we're not talking nacho chips or something.
No, and they commemorate how long you've been sober. Like, this week, I got my 3-month chip for being clean from not harming myself.
Mm-hmm. And once again, my wife's being very careful with her words so that no one out there would be triggered. And so, in our day and age of the social justice warriors and such, sometimes people can make light of the term triggering. And let's face it, some people do get triggered by things that they shouldn't get triggered by and such, but it is a real thing for some people, isn't it?
Yes.
So, and we can think, for instance, that many people who were in the military and have PTSD, if they hear loud sounds and like fireworks and such, they can have flashbacks. Mm-hmm. And then it's not because they're wimps that need to grow up and learn to face the world,
Right.
but because they really do remember those things. And we all can have some things like that, I think. For instance, I think with my fear of water, I can get traumatized when I'm stepping into a swimming pool. Mm-hmm. And thinking about that. And I think you've come to realize that really is one of my largest phobias of all. And we have someone here on the live stream here who's just said Celebrate Recovery is good. We go to one on Friday nights. And one of the other great benefits, I think, of it also is the women get matched up with women, and the men get matched up with men. And you form an accountability group, don't you? Mm-hmm. What happens with this group?
I mean, like you said, it's an accountability group.
Mm-hmm. And what do you all do then?
We talk.
Yeah. The whole thing is that you all have each other's numbers and things like that, and you have a... What exactly is a sponsor?
A sponsor, I guess, is like a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like my sponsor, I can call her and tell her when, like, if I'm having an episode or something, and she'll try to talk me through it, and she goes through the steps with me. Sponsors and accountability partners are different. The sponsor has gone through all 12 steps, and so, like I said, they're more of a mentor, while an accountability partner doesn't have to have gone through all the steps.
Yeah. So you and I haven't gone through all the steps, so we couldn't be sponsors.
Right.
Yet. Now, it really is something great for one of our to have all these people nearby, because I think when you struggle with depression, there's nothing like having just someone nearby. Even if they can't fix the problem, talking about with someone does help a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And, I mean, last night, for instance, on my end, I had a kind of a rough night. There was something happened. It left me feeling sad. We don't need to talk about what it was. My sponsor I wasn't able to reach, but I did have another friend that I called, and you and I call this person pretty regular about these kinds of things, and put him on speaker, and all three of us talked together, and it was a really helpful thing, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And people tell you that sometimes you might think you could be bothering someone if you pick up a phone and call them and such, but it really could mean a lot to them if you just call them and say, hey, how are you doing? And things like that. And it depends on a person. Of course, Allie loves those kinds of things. For me, it's not the biggest deal in the world, because usually I'm reading a book or playing a game or doing something like that, and I'm the one who has to be encouraged to call other people, but it's really good to have a network of people around you can depend on, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about yeah, you saw the comment someone left there, didn't you?
Your mighty beard.
Yeah, but they also, I'm impressed with my honesty, the love and support you share with each other. And we talked about Gary Habermas some. He's been a big help sometimes when you've been upset with it, things, hasn't he?
Yep.
Could you talk a little bit about that?
I don't know what to talk about with that.
Well, I think it's Gary.
I guess he's calm.
Yeah.
You know, when I've told people that, you know, if I'm, like, having an episode and I start talking about being suicidal or, like, I'm going to hurt myself, it's really good for them to be calm, because, and you saw this in Charlotte, even when I saw my therapist there, you know, if I'm freaking out and someone else is freaking out, that makes me freak out even more. But if I'm freaking out and the other person is remaining calm, then that helps me calm down too. Yeah. I'm like an animal that way, I guess.
Yeah. The story of the therapist in Charlotte's story, I remember taking you that time, and I was sitting in on that session with you, because, like, I was in a panic. And here I'm taking your therapist, and he's one of the best ones there is, one of the best ones you've ever had. And he just says, so Allie, how are you doing? I mean, just like, it was a casual conversation, like, how do you think the weather is today? And I'm saying, dude, she's suicidal. She's talking about killing herself. Don't you see how serious the situation is? And he talks that way, though, the whole time. And then I'm saying, well, you know, I just really hope you decide to stay. And I'm saying, have we wasted our time here entirely here? But that did a tremendous help for you, didn't it? How come?
Well, like I said, if you're calm with me, then it helps calm me down.
And also, Gary does the whole thing with telling yourself the truth, where he gets you to focus on what really is true, to try and cloud back the emotions, right?
Yeah.
I think something we should say about this also is that many times when someone's suicidal and such, they don't necessarily want someone to fix the problem.
Right.
I mean, that'd be great if they can, but
they want someone to sympathize.
Just to listen.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is something I told you last night, and I said, honey, I may not be able to understand all the pain that you go through, but I will walk with you through it. And that kind of thing means a lot.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. Especially since one of my biggest fears in life, I've had two really big fears in my life. One is that I'll go crazy, which I already feel like has been happening for a few years now. I married you after all.
I was about to say, I'm not so sure when you mentioned that. Yeah, that as soon as you said I do to me, you were certified to be crazy at that point.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then the other big fear I have is that I'll be completely alone one day.
Mm-hmm.
And so knowing that someone is there for me really goes a long ways.
I saw a couple people send up laughter about the whole thing where we just said it and such. And even to this day, it's still hard to believe that someone's going to be there with you throughout, because at the same time you still guard yourself, and most everyone else who talks to you look and say, like, what, are you nuts or something? I mean, this guy here with you is crazy about you. And I still remember what my mother said to me once. Says, as far as you're concerned, she hung the moon. And it's true. Mm-hmm. I've told you several times, aside from salvation, Jesus Christ, you are the best thing that's ever happened to me. And as soon as I say that, I realize your mind comes up with someone trying to argue against that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, now, we've even tried to help out some people who we thought were suicidal. And this is something that everyone should do out there. Whenever you see someone out there in person or on social media and they say something that seems suicidal, what do you think people should do?
Be there for them and let them know that you're there for them no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Don't helicopter over them, because that'll make things worse. And like I said, if you panic, then they panic more.
Mm-hmm.
So be calm and let them know, hey, I'm here for you whenever you need to talk, or you need someone to listen to you, or whatever.
Now, what do you mean by helicoptering over someone?
Don't be all over them. Mm-hmm. In other words.
Mm-hmm.
That you don't want to have them be alone, but at the same time, don't be all over them.
This is something that sounds like parents do when their kids are going off to college.
Right.
And such. Sometimes they helicopter over them, and the kids actually come to resent it after a while.
Oh, yeah.
And such. And we had a case recently with a friend who we both know who lives in New York. And what had he messaged you that night?
Gosh, I don't remember the exact words, but it really scared me.
It's like, you don't need to worry about me anymore, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in this case, we had this person's number. So we called them, and they didn't answer.
I think we called twice.
Yes. And we left voicemail, still didn't answer. So, what we did then was we actually knew his address. So, we called the local police department and had them go and check on him. And he was upset with us at first, but I think he's come to a point where hopefully he's come to appreciate it, because you don't take chances with that kind of thing, do you?
No.
And I think Facebook and other things have it set up now that if someone says something like that, there is a way to report it.
Mm-hmm.
And that way the person can get help. I mean, friends, if people around you are saying things that you think could possibly even be suicidal,
Don't take a chance.
yes, it means you, of course, you don't panic and such, but you do things that can make sure that it doesn't happen, and just try and show how much you care to that person. At this point in the show, I would like to remind everyone that I've got my princess Allie here with me, and we're talking about September Suicide Awareness Month. Now, everything we do here is supported by people like you out there, and if you want to help with that, just go to deeperwatersapologetics.com. There's a link there on the side, help support the work of Deeper Waters Christian Ministries. And you go there and you click in that and you get taken to Risen Jesus. Oh, is there something wrong with my website? I thought we were interested in Deeper Waters. No, the website's working. That takes you to my in-laws ministry, Mike and Debbie Lacona. You make your donation and you get in touch with me or Allie here or Mike or Debbie and say, hey, I made my donation. I wanted to go to Nick Peters. I wanted to go to Deeper Waters. And we'll find out about that donation. We'll get it. It will be tax deductible. You can also buy ebooks that I have written, such as A Creed for the Ages, The Apostles' Creed in Today's Christian, or buy books that I have co-written, Defying Inerrancy, Groundless, God and Natural Disasters, Christian Answers to This Generation's Questions, etc. And something else we've got at our side, honey, you can't wear a lot of it, but you like jewelry, don't you? My wife can't wear a lot of jewelry because she's got an allergy to nickel. She can't even wear a wedding ring I got her all the time. I don't, not resentful about that at all. It's the way you are, I know. But women just like jewelry. Why is that?
Because it's pretty and shiny.
Mm-hmm. And it makes you feel beautiful, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So guys, we have a jewelry store here. A friend, Lena Cluster, runs it. You go there and you make a purchase. And whatever you purchase, 25% of that goes to Deeper Waters. So, guys, you can buy something special for that lady and support a ministry at the same time. And what I like to tell you guys out there is, guys, you can buy something special for that lady in your life to make up for that screw-up that you recently did with her. Or you can buy something special for that lady in your life to make up for that screw-up that I know you're going to make with her. This doesn't apply to me. I never make screw-ups with Allie.
Oh, no. Never.
See, God, I love your honesty so much, hon. Yeah. And if you can't do any of these, go on iTunes and leave a positive review for the Deeper Waters podcast. I love to see them. I can tell you this. I get really excited every time I see a new review show up, right, hon?
Mm-hmm.
Now, normally I'd ask the guest here if there's any organization they'd like to see people donate to, but I'm pretty sure you'd say the exact same organization, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Yes. Please consider donating to us. We could definitely use it here. Now, what are some signs that you can from people that might indicate that they could be thinking about this?
I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, I totally zoned out just now.
Yeah, we're reading comments here. What are, someone said, don't give them presents, give them presents. And I think that refers to a suicidal person.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the gift you can give them is the gift of you're just being there.
Yes,
right?
it goes a long ways. People who have been there with me when I'm going through a hard time. I mean, this past Good Friday, I almost did something. And it's because of you and someone else that I didn't go through with it because you guys were there for me.
I'm thinking about that video you can see online, and it's the whole thing about it's not about for now.
Right.
Where a husband goes to his wife, and she's talking about this splitting headache she's got, and she's got this nail sticking out of her head. And he's trying to talk to her, and the whole thing he's saying, let me just move this nail. That could help and such. She's trying to say it's not about for now. That's the kind of thing you're saying, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to say it's not about for now?
Well, it's like, when we like, for me, personally, I would love it if I got cured from these mental illnesses.
Absolutely.
If there was a cure, I would go for it.
Yeah.
But there isn't one. So I need someone who will be there for me through the episodes that I have.
Yeah.
Not just say, well, this is what you need to do to get over it. No, I need someone just to be there, just to listen. Someone who will empathize with me. Sometimes
it might be best even if they say absolutely nothing.
Sometimes.
Just as long as they're listening. Because, and this is still something I struggle with, and I think all men especially struggle with this, because for us, we men want to fix the problem. We're fixers. We see something broken, we want to fix it. We see our wives crying, we see them in pain, we want to fix it. Doesn't work that way, does it?
No. It's not about fixing the problem.
Because even if the problem isn't solved, as long as you still feel like emotionally safe with things, it's bearable then.
Right.
Now, what are some warning signs that someone might exhibit if they are suicidal? We're talking about someone just coming out and saying, hey, I'm planning on killing myself and such. What are some indications it could be happening?
Isolation, and not just a little isolation, but a lot of isolation. There was this band that I love, Alice in Chains. They were huge in the 90s. The lead singer, Lane, when his fiance passed away, he was never the same. And he really isolated himself. And he just stayed in his apartment the whole time, and eventually, no one. They tried to reach him on the phone, and they couldn't reach him, so they called the cops, and they went in, and he was dead. So isolation is a huge thing. Giving things away.
Yeah.
I heard that before Chester Bennington killed himself, he was giving some of his things away that were very, very valuable to him. Like, he gave one of his sons, I think it was a leather jacket that he had. And so, if they're giving things away, then, and not just little things. Like, starting to give their most valuable things away.
Yeah. If I give you a book from my library, don't panic immediately.
Right. But, if I'm giving things away like I've got this prayer bracelet here. And if I gave that away, then that could be a sign.
Or I was thinking just like this past year I got you that Eevee from Build-A-Bear.
Right.
And if you gave something like that away, that would be a big sign.
Right.
As well.
A lot of times if you ask someone, how are you doing? They go, oh, I'm okay. This isn't for everyone, but a lot of times for people who are suicidal, they just say that so they don't have to get into how they're really feeling. So, if they consistently are just like, I'm okay, that can be a sign. Just if it looks like they're... A lot of times also, if it's someone who, for example, is planning their suicide, then, or they do have a plan, it's not something just spontaneous like most of my attempts have been. But when it's been planned, and I heard this was the same with Chester Bennington, they believe that he had his planned, they have a certain joy that they express.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's because they feel, this is going to be over soon. I don't have to put up with this anymore soon.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be at peace soon. That's what goes on in their mind. That doesn't mean that's really what's going to happen, of course. But in their mind, they believe, this is going to be over and done with soon.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily if someone's suicidal, but sometimes something that you and I would do is we don't tell people how we are immediately, because in essence, it's kind of like we're testing. We want to see if someone really cares, and then if we think they care, then we open up.
Right. And I'll even say this, and I don't want to worry you, Nick, but sometimes when I say, and this, I've read this is for other people too, but sometimes when I say, I love you, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's a sign of saying,
Yeah.
I might do something that's going to hurt you, and I want you to know that I do love you.
Yeah. In fact, sometimes I have said something when you've said that, based on the way you've said it, just because I don't want to take chances. And, I know that I really don't like having you out of my sight much. And I always try and be around there with you, because that way if you need me for something, I'm right there. And we've seen this happen, for instance, on Facebook, that I've talked about this several times on my show, and I know my sound editor loves it when I talk about this. That's that if someone goes after me, we know that happens. I'm debating left and right on here. People are going to sling bullets and fire bullets at me all day long. Yeah, that's cute. That's nice. But if someone goes after you, you've seen it happen that I take no prisoners.
No.
And I think the rule on Facebook is everyone goes and they pop their popcorn, say, sit back, we're going to enjoy the show.
Gladiator.
Yeah. What does it do for you when you see something like that sticking up and fighting for you like that?
It means a lot to me.
Mm-hmm. And I think this could go back to the whole bullying thing, granted, that if you see someone being bullied out there, do something.
Mm-hmm.
Say something.
Yeah, definitely.
And, say, even if you might have to get physically involved with the situation, and get physically involved sometimes if you have to. And when I spent a few years studying karate, and we had a saying, peace if we will, power if we must. But sometimes that if that's what it takes to stop a bully, you might have to.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I just want to stress with is that when I do this kind of thing, it is because you are worth fighting for. And my whole saying is, anyone can go after me, but if they go after my princess, that's something serious to me. They can disagree with you. They can tell you you're wrong. I disagree sometimes. I tell you you're wrong on some things and such, and that's fine. Disagreement's allowed. Healthy debate, healthy discussion is allowed. But going on the offensive against you is not allowed. I've even blocked some people on your Facebook account because of this.
Yeah.
And this is, again, why we have to be very careful with social media, such, and we have to be very careful with rejection, because people do get hurt sometimes, but there is love out there still, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
So, when things have, you are still working on many things at this point. You're going through the 12 steps. You're reading more books now to get past this. And part of the thing that you're having to learn, actually, believe it or not, people, is humility, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why does someone who's suicidal need humility?
Someone like me has a lot of false humility.
Mm-hmm.
I beat myself up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm like the worst person in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so Humility is understanding who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
Not going over the top on how good you are or over the top on how bad you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally knowing who you are.
Yeah.
That's my definition, anyway.
It's not being selfless. It's thinking about yourself less.
Right.
And it's quite interesting that you're being told to help you overcome this. You are not as special as you think you are. Because the whole idea is usually when you're in this kind of situation, you really do think you're the only one with this kind of experience, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that makes Celebrate Recovery so special, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's just a red flag in my experience with a friend was she suddenly lost interest in activities she genuinely loved. Cooking, reading, pets, family events, etc.
Yeah, that's a big one. I know something happened in February earlier this year that really changed me and was actually the reason why on Good Friday I was going to try to end my life this year. I lost interest in everything that I enjoyed. I'm still trying to pick up the pieces from that and trying to find things that I enjoy, but it's definitely a big thing if they lose interest in things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to get you interested in watching The Flash with me again and Riverdale with me again. And let's face it, sometimes you're going to have to do things even if you don't feel like doing them, right? And I think it can be difficult for some people because usually we think if you don't feel like doing something, it's not real and it's not honest, but that's just not so, is it?
Right.
And I'll give an easy example. If I've sat down at the end of the day and I'm going to just get out my book or play a game on Wii or something, one of the last things I want to hear is like, honey, can you go to the store and get some milk?
I haven't done that in a long time.
Yes, you haven't, but it can happen. That kind of thing. I'm just using that as a for instance and such.
I don't drink milk anymore.
It's just a for instance.
I know.
It could be anything else out there. And so, I definitely at that time do not feel like going to the store and getting things and such. But I do it anyway, because it's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And so with me, with things that I like and such, you sometimes have to do them.
Yeah.
And, of course, if it's something wrong, that would be something different altogether.
Right.
But sometimes you do things just because it's the right thing to do. And I think this also helps you that you start learning your feelings aren't in charge.
Right.
Mm-hmm. If there was someone out there right now listening who really is considering suicide, if you could talk to them, what would you tell them?
Oh boy. Hang in there. You know, it's don't let this be the end of your story when it could be just beginning.
Mm-hmm. And if we're talking to people and we think they could be suicidal, what kinds of things should we say at that time?
I'm here for you.
Mm-hmm.
No, if there's anything you need, I'm here for you.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the great websites that's got a lot of good information on this is The Mighty.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about The Mighty. What is it?
The Mighty has different subjects it covers. I mainly read the articles that are concerning mental health.
Mm-hmm.
But it can really open your eyes to what people are going through.
Mm.
You know, I share a lot of, for example, I share a lot of articles from them about borderline personality disorder. Mm-hmm. Because not only am I trying to learn more about what it's like having it for me, but I'm hoping other people who, you know, who don't understand what it is can understand it too. So not as an excuse for the way how I behave, but for them to understand how I behave.
Yeah, as I say about our Asperger, sometimes it's an explanation, not a justification.
Right.
And we had someone here in the comments saying you could go to a store together, maybe. Yeah, sometimes we do that. It doesn't mean I still feel like doing it. Sometimes she's still in the middle of cooking something, so I have to go on my own because she's got the oven heating and things like that and such. So I have to go on my own sometimes. But, yeah, I mean, either way, some guys, being a loving husband means you do things you don't feel like doing. And sometimes, ladies, being a loving wife means you do things you don't feel like doing. As I've said, keep this in mind. Ladies, here's a tip. Read this one once. If you have a son sometime, name him Gotham. That way, anytime the baby starts crying in the middle of the night, you can just turn to your husband and say, Gotham needs you. And he'll get up and he'll take care of a problem every single
I'll get up if the baby's named Gotham. Gotham needs me, I'll get up.
Now, let's talk about how things are going for you right now here. Because you've been trying to make a lot of changes. In one way, you've been very inspirational to a lot of people lately, is you want to get a healthy weight.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about what's going on.
Well, for about a year, I've been about 300 pounds. Sometimes going a little more than 300, but staying around between 296 and 300 pounds. Mm-hmm. And I'm tired of being so heavy. I'm tired of allowing food to control me, and I'm tired of being in pain all the time, not just emotionally, but physically, because that's hard on the body to carry that much weight. Mm. And it's hard on the joints. I've got arthritis in both my knees and some knee injuries. And so, that doesn't help when you're heavy. So a friend has been helping me with my dieting, and I've been staying away from bread, potatoes, rice, and sweets. I try to limit my meals to having 2 grams of sugar and 1,200 calories a day.
Mm. So, last month, let's say, did you have any success at all with this diet?
I lost 15 pounds.
15 pounds in a month.
Mm-hmm.
And when we turned on my computer here to do this, we saw one of my friends saying they'd lost 17.4 pounds. Thanks, Allie, for being an inspiration. Mm-hmm. And you, especially, being called as an inspiration for losing this weight. And what does that do for you when you see all these people, when you post your success and people start talking about you being an inspiration?
It makes me feel really good. I often feel like I'm not really doing anything to contribute to anyone, but if I can inspire people, that makes me feel really good.
You got a comment on the side. Good job, Allie. And
Thanks.
You see all the hearts going up here on the live stream.
Okay.
see, this is one good reason to do the live stream here. And, I think something like that goes with something we've been saying here, because you say you feel like you don't really do anything for anyone, and yet, someone's jealous of my library. You're only seeing part of it, by the way. This whole place is filled with shelves, and there's even more books out there.
I'm surrounded by books. I'm in book hell.
There's no such thing.
If we catch them on fire, maybe.
Blasphemy. Anyway, what I was saying is that it's easy for you, again, to downplay something, because I tell you all the good you do for me constantly, and usually your comment is, well, someone else could do it, I don't really do it much, but the thing is, you do it, don't you?
Yeah.
And that's easy to lose sight of. I mean, sure, some other people could be an inspiration for weight loss and such, but you're the one doing it. Mm-hmm. And once you get to your healthy weight and such, do you have any plans for that?
On what I'm going to do?
Yeah.
Well, you've said that once I've lost 100 pounds, I can maybe get my first tattoo.
It depends. You've got a skin condition and such. So
But it'd be cool if I could get a tattoo.
Yeah. And you also want to do horseback riding.
Yes.
Again, don't you?
I do.
And you've got a good friend at Subway Recovery who can help you with that, don't you? And I think you've also said if you go a year without self-harm, your plan is to write a little ebook on that, isn't it? And all this going on, it kind of gets to the point that we definitely really never know what the future holds. And all this journey with overeating and everything else going on in your life, it's worth it if it helps just one person.
Yes.
Isn't it? Someone says, you feel so good you won't even want a tattoo anymore.
I don't know. I've been wanting a tattoo for a while.
Yeah, and your parents have always said, once you hit your ideal weight, shopping spree.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I'm going to need some new clothes.
You know,
No more t-shirts. Finally some nice shirts.
Yeah, expect to see you on the next episode of Extreme Weight Loss here. And by the way, this 15 pounds, it's been done without even doing a lot of exercising, right?
Mostly diet.
Yeah. Of course, you are getting ready to a point where you are going to be working on exercising and such, but just changing your diet has had a big impact. And
Yes.
all these foods that you've cut out of your diet and such, they were ones you've loved, but you haven't managed to go cold turkey. My lady who is watching with me wants to know what you get from Allie that makes you love her so much. Okay. With Allie is the person who came to my life, and she didn't friend zone me. And that was something incredible. I'd never known a lady who loves me for me in a romantic sense like that. And she's never been ashamed of me or anything. She actually likes me physically as well. And to me, that's absolutely stunning. I think one of the things is if you grew up like me and you're a nerd, you kind of start thinking no one ever will come into your life and love you like this. And when they do, you don't lose sight of it. I get amazed by it every day. I still love you so much, honey. I'm so amazed that there's a woman out there like you. And I say, what she was saying a while ago about listening to someone instead of just fixing the problem, Allie is very good at that with me. And one of my love languages is touch from her. And to have her just give me a hug or something like that, a nice kiss, something like that, that can be everything. If I'm really angry about something, for instance, she's the one that she can come over and she can take my hand calmly, gently, put her hand on my leg, something like that. It doesn't change things in me. By God, everything starts to go away at that point. And I'm able to focus. And I come back to what the scripture says, we love because he first loved us. And we actually both say that about each other. We love each other because everyone loved us first in our mind. Right, hon? And I think with what I was saying about you, you might say the same kinds of things in some way, right? As far as both of us were concerned, we were kind of like the outcast and such, and now we've got each other, and it's been going on like this for 8 years of marriage together, and it's really incredible. And we sit here in awe and wonder at your loving response. And one of my favorite songs that I'll play sometimes, because sometimes when on some days when talk radio isn't too good and I'm getting a shower, I want to play some music. One that I'll usually always play is Danny's song, because that reminds me so much of us. Is right now we're in a bad financial situation. We want to get out of that someday. That's why donations are so special to us. But I love the idea of even though we don't got money, I'm so in love with you, honey, and everything will build a chain of love. And when our eyes, bring a tear to my eyes and tell me everything will be alright. Allie usually goes to bed before I do. I'm a night owl of sorts. And I stay up, but I can just be out there sometimes think, my wife is sleeping in the next room. Yes, my wife. That is incredible. And I have other friends who are single, and I hear about them waiting, and I say, guys, don't give up, because there could be someone really awesome just around the corner. And now even Allie has a hard time believing what I'm saying here right now. This is part of that learning humility, isn't it, right?
Yeah.
Because Allie's just saying everything. No, he doesn't. He's either he doesn't know the real me, or he's just saying it, or things like that. It's usually easy to go to your friends and think they're just being nice and things like that, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of steps are you taking to overcome these issues here?
I guess try to be more trusting.
Mm-hmm. And of course, this means trust to the
right people.
The people who deserve it. And something I've told you also is not wearing your heart on your sleeve too much, not being an open book to everyone you meet.
Right.
And what role does Christianity play in all of this?
Well, I guess for one thing, it's something that I try to keep in mind if I'm feeling suicidal is that, I want to honor God with my life, and if I kill myself, that's not honoring Him. Mm-hmm. That's actually bringing dishonor to Him, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I do that enough living. I don't want to do that permanently.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to say that Christians, please don't give pat answers to people like this. Don't, as much as we encourage these things, don't say, just read the Bible and pray.
Oh, God, no.
And yes, Danny's song by Loggins and Messina, yes, that's the one. Allie and I are not opposed to Bible reading. We are not opposed to prayer. But sometimes it takes a little bit more, doesn't it? Mm-hmm.
I know for me, like, when someone tells me they've been praying for me, that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
No, but don't tell me, just read your Bible. Or just pray about it. Because I've had therapists tell me that, and it doesn't work like that.
Now, of course, a Christian struggling with this kind of thing should be reading their Bible.
Right.
They should be praying. And you do have some memory verses that you have some taped on your mirror and things like that and such, but this is something that takes real effort. It's not going to change overnight. And I think that's one of the great dangers of our society is that we live in an instant age and we think everything has to be fixed instantly.
Right.
And it isn't. But I think right now you are seeing that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, and maybe the darkness isn't as dark as you think it is, right?
Maybe. Still working on that.
Mm-hmm. And fortunately, you've got several people who've stepped up to help you out. We're grateful for the church we've started going to give us some bets.
Both churches.
Yeah, both of them. One of them, the priest there, is giving you personal counseling and such. And the other one, we've only been to it a few times, and yet the pastor has already agreed to pay for Allie to have DBT for a year. Mm-hmm. And I've said, Allie, I'm really good at math. The church has just invested over $5,000 in us right now. You're seeing all these people giving to you. What are you thinking about it?
I'm grateful to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope I don't disappoint them.
Mm-hmm. And as we're looking here, we're seeing all these comments and such that people are making, and seeing all the hearts and the thumbs up and such going up. What do you think when you see all this going on Facebook and such here?
I guess I hope through my suffering, I can help at least one person.
Mm-hmm. You already have, don't you?
Who?
well, we have the whole thing about you being an inspiration with weight loss and such.
Yeah.
And I know you're a great help. I'm a man sitting right next to you.
Okay.
And I want to see, this is just another example, isn't it, of that you never know what the future holds. Because when we go back to your first suicide attempt, you never would have dreamed that it'd be something like this here today.
Right.
What do you mean? Like I said, this guy that you were interested in was your dream guy. And as it turns out, you didn't marry your dream guy, did you?
Nope, I got better.
I got better too, hon.
You won't even tell me who your dream girl was.
Well, you're very different from what I thought I would be marrying to. I thought I'd marry another bookworm of sorts. I did not get that. But
Burn the books.
we'll be dealing with her blasphemy later on here. I'm going to go and burn all Allie's mangas right now here. But overall, me right now, could dare say life is good.
Yeah.
And people, if you're out there and you are considering this, or you know someone who is, please call the suicide hotline in whatever country you live in and get some help, right, hon?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you might even have to call like a crisis prevention line. We've called that a few times, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
Like there was one time even that you just had a case of self-harm, and I cried for 3 hours straight.
Mm-hmm.
And we called the crisis line. They asked me, do you need help, or is it her who needs help right now? And it has been nearly 2 hours now. I asked my guests if they have a blog, a website, an email where people can get in touch if they want to find out more. And you've mentioned your blog once. So tell us about your blog.
I write a lot about mental illness or just how I'm feeling emotionally. There's some creative writing. It tends to be very dark. Mm-hmm. Most of my family can't read my blog.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, where is your blog at?
writtenimred.blogspot.com.
That's an L. She meant to put written in red, and she had a typo stuck.
Yeah.
And such. And yeah, I agree. Don't burn the books. Read the books as much as I can. I do that. Do you have any final words you'd like to leave for a Deeper Waters audience?
Pray for the people you meet. Like I said, you don't know what kind of battle they're fighting. And, pray that God has mercy on them, and yeah.
And some of you out here, listening on Facebook here and such, you might not know it. We don't broadcast it, but sometimes when we see you post things on here, we make sure to pray for you that evening.
Yeah.
Reach out and be a friend to someone around you. Suicide is never the right answer.
No.
Now, Princess, thank you so much for coming on. My favorite guest to have, certainly the most beautiful guest I ever have. I'm serious, and you know I mean it, don't you?
All right.
But your hubby loves you very much.
I love you too.
Yeah, we're grossing out with people on the live stream right now, I'm sure. But if you're here next week, I hope we see Allie here again sometime. But if you're here next week, we're going to have Greg Kutsana on. And he's going to be talking about neuroscience and Christian faith. And we have some thanks here for both of us and such. So, but Princess, it's been a joy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
And I'll be back next week on the Deeper Waters podcast. For now, I'm Nick Peters, and I'm signing off.
Bye.